how football works. I'm Ollie Klink. We have a jam-packed show in store today. Let's not waste any time. Into the chaos we go, into the courtroom battle involving the Premier League and Manchester City. Here to dissect it all with me is lawyer, football finance expert and former financial advisor to Manchester City, Stefan Borson. And making his debut, I'm delighted to welcome Forest Green Rovers chairman Dale Vince. Gentlemen, how are we? We well?
Very good.
Yeah, not bad, thanks.
Great to have you along. Let's get straight into this courtroom showdown then. Manchester City versus the Premier League. Both have raised their arms to claim a legal victory in this case, which involves associated party transactions. We've had Man City accuse the Premier League of being misleading over the verdict of the case. They've even written a letter to all 19 fellow clubs in the top flight and to the league themselves. So, Stefan, I'll start with you. In the simplest terms you can, what is this case all about?
So, on the back of the Newcastle takeover, a number of the clubs wanted to put in place more stringent rules around the deals that were done with parties close to the ownership of clubs. And that was particularly in focus because clearly there was a feeling that Newcastle would quickly do a number of commercial deals with Saudi partners. And we learnt from the decision and the judgment that came out over the last couple of days, some of the background and the timings around that. So the rules came in, expanded the existing PSR rules related to what's known in accounting terms as related parties. And those are parties who have shared ownership and pass a certain accounting test within clubs' report and accounts. So it's expanded that to a wider group of companies who are close to the ownership of clubs, and also introduced a number of rules that allowed the league to assess for fair market value those commercial transactions that were proposed. There were various developments over the years, so a number of clubs had associated party transactions approved by the league. We don't find out about these until they are approved, so we have no visibility from the outside as to whether they haven't been approved. But in February of 2024, the league decided, with the clubs obviously, to vote through some additional changes and some additional amendments to the APT rules. And we now know that City felt that that had gone too far, and that they objected on competition grounds to those new rules. And therefore they took action under what's known as a Rule X arbitration within the Premier League rules. And in June, there was a 2-week hearing, and we now know the outcome of that hearing.
Just before we move on to the outcome, Dale, what do you make of Man City putting forward this challenge in the first place?
Well, I think it's interesting. Firstly, I think it's interesting both sides claim to win in this, which is funny. I don't think it's fair of Man City to say the Premier League have been misleading in this, because I've just read about it this morning, and it's clear that City was successful in a couple of their claims and unsuccessful for many more. And the ruling itself seems about right. Man City complained that they weren't given access to the fair value calculations and stuff like that, the background data. That seems to be a fundamental point of fairness. They should have been, so they could have challenged them and stuff like that. So I think the rulings themselves seem to just straighten out APT rules, and the Premier League have pretty much vowed to tweak them and put them straight back into play. Did I miss your question?
No, not at all. But as Dale alludes to there, Stefan, both sides claiming victory. It is a bit of a strange situation. Obviously, you have your background in law as well. I'm going to get you to simplify it in a way that we'll all understand. If it was a football match, what would the score have been between Man City and the Premier League?
Yeah, I see it as a kind of 2-2, 2-1 type 2-1 to City. I think, ultimately City...
2-1 to the Premier League.
Well, look, it depends the lens that you look at the situation from. At the end of the day, City came out of the hearing with a better position than they went into the hearing.
And why is that? Why do you say they're in a better position?
Well, because they succeeded in effectively removing, ultimately, the amendments that have been made in 2024, which significantly expanded the scope of the APT rules So we don't know exactly how this is all going to play out in terms of the redrafting of the rules. There is a dispute around that, and that's a central piece of City's letter to the Premier League clubs on Monday night, is that they disagree with the way that the Premier League has presented the next steps. City say that in correspondence, they have agreed with the Premier League that there will now be a process that will go back in front of the tribunal. Now, we don't know the Premier League's stance on that. Certainly from the Premier League statement, their position seems to be different. Their position is, we will all get round the table in the next 10 days, we'll cross out a few bits and pieces, we'll put in an extra clause around shareholder loans, and everything will be fine.
But Dale, you disagree. You think that actually this was, well, in your words, 2-1 to the Premier League. Why do you say that?
Well, because City lost most of their claims, and the Premier League have been clear they think they can simply change those elements of the APT rules that the tribunal found against, simply change them, and I think they probably can on my reading of it. So I think, you could say Premier League took 2 steps forward with the rule change and 1 step back with the tribunal hearing, but whichever way I look at it, I think tighter rules are coming. City won't like it. But I think it's a step closer to tighter rules.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to challenge that particular piece, I mean, I think it is clear that the rules will be relaxed post the hearing, not tighter. I mean, we've had tighter rules. Tighter rules have come in. There's no question that the APT rules that came in on the back of the Newcastle takeover in 2021 significantly strengthened the Premier League's position in terms of assessing commercial deals. The rules that came in at the beginning of 2024 doubled down on that strengthening. But I do think that it's very hard to say that the decision of the tribunal is not that those rules went too far. And now what we're going to see, the materiality of these changes is up for debate, but we are certainly going to see a rowing back to probably something closer to the 2021 position, but with some additional things that City wanted around the disclosure of the information that the Premier League has in assessing commercial transactions, and more stringent rules in terms of the timetable. So I would say that, and really that's why I point to a score draw / a very narrow win for City, because I do think City have achieved some of their aims from the hearing, even despite the rejection, as Dale says, of a large number of their, I wouldn't call them claims, but they in any one of these sorts of cases, you will put forward a number of arguments, and you don't need to win them all. Winning some of them is still a good outcome.
Manchester City have been dealt some big injury blows in the early months of the 202,425 season, after seeing Oscar Bob suffer a serious leg injury right before City's latest Premier League campaign kicked off. The likes of Kevin De Bruyne and Nathan Ake have also picked up injuries that have led to them missing matches for Pep Guardiola's side. Another serious injury setback the champions have been handed in their hunt to land a 5th consecutive Premier League trophy concerns Rodri. Having seen the midfielder get forced off the pitch in City's 2-2 draw against Arsenal, Guardiola revealed that Rodri will be out injured for the season. This has now led to some behind-the-scenes details coming to light regarding the possibility of seeing City bring a new midfielder to the Etihad Stadium during the upcoming January transfer window. Erling Haaland has addressed the incident where he hit the ball at Gabriel Magalhaes' head after Manchester City scored a late equalizer against Arsenal. Gabriel had been one of the standout performers in the match, playing a crucial role in keeping Haaland quiet for most of the game. The Norwegian striker, known for his goal-scoring prowess, struggled against Arsenal's resolute defense, with Gabriel's marking playing a key part in limiting his influence. Haaland, clearly frustrated by Arsenal's defensive efforts, particularly Gabriel's, lashed out in the moment by hitting the ball at the Brazilian defender after City's late goal. Gabriel has since downplayed the incident, brushing it off as part of the intensity of the match. When recently asked about the incident, Haaland spoke about it, suggesting there were no hard feelings and acknowledging the heat of the moment during a fiercely competitive match. Both players appear to have moved on, with Gabriel's calm response helping to diffuse any lingering tension. Haaland said, As quoted by Manchester Evening News, in the heat of the moment things happened in that game. What happens on the pitch stays on the pitch. That's how it is. He added, I don't regret much in life. When asked if he regretted the incident, just Arsenal opinion, Haaland was a frustrated figure in that game, just like most of the Manchester City stars, which is why they celebrated wildly when they finally had the ball in the back of the net, even though it was only a leveler and not a winning goal. Pep Guardiola, Man City manager, could announce decision on future next month. Manchester City expert Stephen McInerney from esteemed company has told Sports Mole that an announcement on Pep Guardiola's future at the Etihad Stadium could be made next month. Speculation over the 53-year-old's long-term future on the blue side of Manchester has been rife for some time, with his current contract due to expire in the summer of 2025. Widely regarded as one of the greatest managers of all time, Guardiola is currently enjoying his 9th season in charge at the Etihad, where he has celebrated winning a total of 18 trophies. The Catalan coach has transformed his Man City side into the dominant force of English football since arriving in 2016, winning 6 of the last 7 Premier League titles, as well as winning 4 EFL Cups, 2 FA Cups, and 3 Community Shields. Guardiola steered the Citizens to Champions League glory for the first time in the club's history in 2022-23. The same season they completed a historic treble, while his side also became the first club in English top-flight history to win 4 successive titles after finishing the 2023-24 campaign 2 points clear of rivals Arsenal in second. What is the latest on Guardiola's future at Man City? At the end of last season, Guardiola admitted that he is closer to leaving than staying at Man City, sparking speculation that the current campaign could be his last before deciding to leave when his contract expires next summer. Guardiola then revealed in July that he would love to stay at the Etihad beyond the end of the 2024-25 season, but stressed that a decision on his future would involve a number of factors. The Man City boss was asked again about his future at a press conference last week prior to the club's 3-2 win over Fulham in the Premier League, when a banner that read Pep Guardiola, "We want you to stay in Catalan," was unveiled in the South Stand at the Etihad. The 1894 group raised over $1,000 in less than 24 hours to create the banner, and Guardiola has since expressed his willingness to pay for the banner, although he opted to remain coy on his future when pressed on the matter by reporters. Man City fans are desperate to see Guardiola commit his future to the club, and McInerney believes that the former Barcelona and Bayern Munich boss has already made his mind up about his future. "I think Guardiola probably knows now. I'd be surprised if he doesn't," McInerney told Sports Mole. It's a weird one with Guardiola because he's such a hard man to read, and that's what makes him so good, I guess.